So we're just waiting for quorum, and then we will get started. I think Councilmember Johnson went to go track down a colleague. So thank you for your patience.
And I have a pretty high turnout already.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremiah Ellison, and I am the chair of the Election and Rules Committee, and I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of that committee. So joining me at the dais are Councilmembers Palmisano, Johnson, I always get this so tripped up. Anyway, Councilmembers Cunningham, Councilmembers Jenkins, myself, Councilmember Reich, and Councilmember Cano. We are a quorum of the committee, and let's get started into our first discussion item. We have one item on the agenda, which is it has to do with making some changes to some of our voting precincts. So here to make the presentation is Tim Schwartz, and thank you for being here and giving us this presentation. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, Chair Ellison, committee members. As the chair stated, we bring forward one item, resolution for approval of polling places for 2020, which is inclusive of a couple new requests for 2 new precincts. So something we do annually is approve the polling places for the next year. And I've just got a few slides to go through briefly describing a couple of the polling place changes and then also the 2 new precincts proposed. So 3 polling places are changing for 2020. We lost 2 churches that were polling places in Ward 4. So Ward 4, Precinct 7 is changing from St. Austin Catholic Church to the Mastery School. Ward 4, Precinct 8 moves from Parkway United over to Lucy Craft Laney School. And then in Ward 5, the polling place remains North Point Health and Wellness, but the address has changed. They did some construction, built a new building. So we're in the new building. It's a slight change, but it's still, since the address changes, it's still considered a polling place change. And then we have one building in Ward 3 that has a name change. That's not an address change, so that doesn't involve the sorts of notifications to voters that we would normally do for a new polling place. It's the same polling place, just a different business name. So in the cases of all of these polling place changes, what we do is attempt to put signs on the former polling place. If that's a possibility, we mail them signs to direct voters to the new location. And then any registered voters will also receive postal notification from the county of the change. And again, the exception would be for this polling place that has a name change. We won't be sending anything to voters because they'll still go to the same location. And then as far as the 2 new precincts we're proposing are in wards 3 and Ward 10. We had a couple really fairly difficult polling places. In Ward 3, if you remember from 2018, Ward 3, Precinct 1 had very long lines, long wait times, people voting for a long time after the polls closed. So that, and also in Ward 10, Precinct 2, there's a lot of the same situation with a large number of registered voters, a lot of same-day registrations, long lines, wait times. So we'd like to add these new precincts for 2020. We're expecting a really busy election year, and we don't want to see those same situations that we saw in 2018 and previously in these locations. So as the slide says, we're focusing on voter service, increasing the speed of getting people through the polling places. We will add staff to help direct voters to get in the right line. And in these two cases, we're able to use the same location, so there won't be the confusion for voters of having a new precinct and a new polling location. They'll be assigned to the new precinct, but they'll still get to vote in the same building. Anybody assigned to one of the new precincts will get that postal notification from Hennepin County. But if they forget or they have, don't look at the card or something, and they just go to where they voted last year, they'll still be in the right building, just in a different section of the building. So just to quickly walk through the two precinct additions, as I said, Ward 313 is the new precinct. We're splitting the existing 3-1 precinct along 6th Street southeast. So here's the existing 3-1 precinct, and then if we divide it along 6th Street, below 6th Street, south of 6th Street southeast remains 3-1, and the new precinct 313 is north of that. And then same thing in Ward 10, Precinct 11 is the new precinct. We're splitting the existing 10-2 precinct along DuPont Avenue South. There's how it looks today, and then we'd propose dividing it along DuPont Avenue. And the new precinct 1011 is on the screen right now. So that's the short story on the precincts and the polling places. We just want to increase the service. We're essentially doubling the service level at those locations. Same number of voters, same location, but we're doubling by adding the precinct, the number of poll workers. Each precinct has a tabulator, et cetera. So thanks to all of you for all your support for the Elections Office. And I also should publicly thank all of our polling place partners. As long as we're talking about polling places, we use a number of schools, parks, and public housing buildings that comprise about half of our polls. And then a bunch of obviously private locations. So I'd like to just at least publicly thank all of them for their help every year.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got a few questions from colleagues. Councilmember Jenkins.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Ellison. I'm just curious, we're expecting a large turnout, and do we feel like the number of polling places, there's 2 additional new polling places, and 3 and 10, right?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be enough to really handle our voter turnout? And then does this also include the new early voting locations too?
So through the chair, Councilmember Jenkins, I'll address your second question first. It doesn't go into anything about early voting locations. This is just the polling place list for Election Day. And then I think for your first question, I think when I discussed these with all of your offices, I was talking about maybe not doing a large number of changes this year because we have redistricting coming up, and there'll be other changes happening anyway, most likely with lines of wards changing. So that might be the best time to look into building up the number of precincts that we have. So we're not changing a lot of things on people right before this really busy election season that we're anticipating a high turnout. It'll be busy, but we'll keep encouraging folks to vote early, vote absentee by mail. And this will help these 2 precinct additions at least alleviate some of the pressure from probably 2 of the worst situations that we had in terms of lines and long wait times. So that's why we're not bringing a whole slew of precinct additions, but I think we have to keep that in mind. And as the clerk, Casey Carl's mentioned many times, as the population keeps growing, we need to not have a flat line of polling locations. That needs to start ticking up also.
Thank you.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions from my colleagues, so I will move approval of the draft resolution, which reconfirms all existing precincts and polling places for the 2020 presidential election cycle, as well as those additions and changes that are specifically identified in the resolution itself. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Awesome. The ayes have it, and that recommendation will be forwarded to the full council. Thank you, and with
Thanks.
no other business in front of us, the Election and Rules Committee is adjourned.